Welcome back to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network. My name is Jamira Burley. I'm here with my amazing co-host, Brea Baker. And today we're talking about a local race that has national consequences. The New York mayoral race was talked about nationally, and we're going to dig into it today.
New York. Never been so proud to be from New York. That is right. What happened in New York was not just another blue city election. It was a seismic shift. Number one, people think New York is a lot more progressive than it is. We have a lot of billionaires, a lot of Republicans who are
a lot of fake billionaires too.
Right, a lot of fake ones too, who are trying to hold on to power. And what Zohran Mamdani did with a young grassroots-backed campaign was took down the establishment, and that win has major implications for how the Democratic Party is about to engage with and listen to Black and brown and working class voters. I'm so hyped about it. Let's get into some headlines first, though, to stay on a positive note at first.
Yes.
We're going to get into some negative headlines, but to stay on a positive, the WNBA is doing some team expansion. We've got 3 new cities coming. For those who are unfamiliar, WNBA has been on this meteoric rise for quite a few years now. Valkyries just started a new team in the Bay. Toronto's getting a new team next year. And now Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia will be the 3 newest cities to get teams. Many of these cities already had teams before. Actually, all 3 of those cities previously had teams when the WNBA was first launched. Those teams were either sold or folded. And so it's so exciting to see these cities get teams again. And these are predominantly Black cities as well. So I just love to see Black WNBA fans be shown this sort of love.
Oh, absolutely. And I just feel like I'm the good luck charm. Like, you know, I moved to the Bay gets a team. I'm from Philadelphia is getting a team. You're welcome, America.
I was just about to say, okay, so basically you're the WNBA commissioner.
I might as well be. I mean, call me. But no, I'm super excited. This is like, I think what we saw with the rise of both Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and a host of other amazing female basketball players is that there's a deep desire for that entertainment and for young girls to be able to see themselves in that sport and be celebrated. And, you know, there's a lot of things we can say about the feud and the competitiveness between those 2 athletes. And that's for another episode. There's a lot of nuance to that. But what they brought to the table, though, I think is making the WNBA and the world open up to the fact that we have strong players, we have amazing fan bases, and this is a time to really invest in those players and also a country who supports women athletes. So I'm excited. Hope they get pay increases. As far as I'm concerned, they deserve to get paid well.
Maybe we'll have an episode about that soon because they are in a year where they will be doing some bargaining, and I'm really excited for some revenue sharing.
No, absolutely. I wish I could be as positive as that regarding my first headline, but we've all probably seen, unfortunately, the articles, the interviews, the clips of Donald Trump touring the Alligator Alcatraz new facility that is being built in Florida or is currently underway of being built. I think they just received some of their first detainees. This is built in a swamp area that there's only a one-way road in, and they can house thousands of immigrants and U.S. citizens, because we've seen that the Trump administration doesn't care if you're here legally or illegally. And this is a moment that I think either will define the next few years or not, depending on how folks respond to this, because they are kidnapping people off the street and are throwing them in prisons here in the United States and abroad. And the way that the Trump administration is trying to spin this as if this is a good thing for the country. No, these are concentration camps. We're building concentration camps in 2025 with our tax dollars. Our president is doing it in our faces. We cannot say that we didn't know.
Yeah. I just, and then it flooded almost immediately. And I've seen people talking about, you know, nature reclaims, and you can try and put your death camps wherever you want, but like nature defies and does not align with that. I just think it's such a a really terrifying time right now, especially as you said, like not just for immigrant communities, but for anyone who loves someone who is an immigrant, but also for the fact that they are testing strategies against migrant communities that will soon be also weaponized against anyone who shows dissent with this administration. And so I just think that we really need to be very outspoken in our resistance to it and say that like this level of cruelty and callousness and like throwing people away and disposability with human beings is not acceptable. Because let me tell you something, if he was putting dogs in that fucking camp,
talk about it.
And white women around the country would have had it shut down already. And so we have to be just as loud and just as like insistent that we're not going to let this happen on our watch.
Absolutely. And we are deploying the same tactics of the Nazis. Let's be honest with ourselves. Concentration camps, denaturalizing US citizens, taking back citizenship, putting people into prisons where they have no due process. Those are all tactics of Nazis.
Yep.
This is the party of Nazis. If no one has said it, let me be the first.
Right.
So yeah, this is how we respond to this moment. These are all moments where the Trump administration is just trying to see how far they can go and what we're going to allow them to do. And now is the time to respond accordingly, whether, in local communities, using your voice, using your platform, but we cannot allow this to continue to happen because more people are going to be impacted.
Yep. Say that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, next headline, not quite about the government, but Sean Diddy Combs' verdict is in. Diddy was found guilty of only 2 of the 5 charges. The government had already dropped several others, and of the 5 remaining charges, he was only found guilty of 2, and they were honestly 2 of the lesser charges for transporting and engaging in hiring prostitution and sex workers, whatever the case may be. But he did not get charged with some of the heavier things. So it's definitely a really devastating blow to survivors and to those who, saw the video of him physically assaulting Cassie, who heard the testimonies of countless women and men who all described this culture of hostility and surveillance and retaliation and violence. It's just really scary to see what powerful people and wealthy people can get away with. Luckily, which it feels weird to say this as an abolitionist who doesn't really believe in prisons, but I really believe in accountability. And I think it's really dangerous for people to get off after proven crimes like these. But luckily, Diddy will not be freed yet. His sentencing is not scheduled until October, and he was denied bail and is expected to remain behind bars until that time. And so we'll see what the judge hands down as his sentence. But just really shows that the culture of violence is not just something that we see white people engaging in and white men engaging in. We see that within our spaces too, that wealthy, Black, powerful men are able to get away with a lot, and what it means for women who are trying to get ahead in these industries, in these spaces. We're just trying to be loved and cared for and protected. And as Malcolm X said, end up being the most disrespected people in America.
And let's be clear, Diddy was only allowed to get away with this for so long because the vast majority of, if not all of his victims, were women of color, people of color. I don't need a verdict to tell me what Diddy did was wrong. So the only thing I will say in regards to this article is that if I see you supporting him online, I will block you. I will block you immediately.
Yes.
Okay. This is a prime example. Him getting off was not surprising, right? America just elected a sex offender as our president. Like, no surprise there. But, we as the public can actually hold him accountable in ways that the justice system won't, which is meaning stop supporting him, stop supporting people who support him, and give him the type of treatment that he's been giving his victims, which is isolation, intimidation. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm not surprised, but I will block you happily. Block you. In regards to my last article, this is the party of cruelty. Let's just be absolutely clear. So Governor Abbott of Texas has vetoed a new funding bill that would have provided summer lunches for low-income students in Texas. which is heavily needed. And it's a program that is fully funded by the federal government. The federal government provides millions of dollars to go to states every single year to ensure that about $120 can be allocated per child, to ensure that they're able to eat during the 3 summer months that they're not in school. As a person, me, Jamira Burley, who benefited from summer lunch programs, it is transformative. It also can be devastating when those meals are not available, especially if it is the only meal that that child is promised. And the fact that the governor, despite the fact that this would not be a huge burden for Texas, because Texas would only have to support the administrative costs of running this program, so making sure that the dollars made it to the families, they are vetoing it, saying that the federal government is under a lot of pressure. While they are giving tax break to the wealthy, we are saying that we do not want to feed poor and low income families. And this is a reminder that this is a party that intentionally wants to demonstrate cruelty and to hurt those who are the most vulnerable within our society. And I hate it. I hate every bit of it.
Hate it here so bad. Yeah, I think that I'm just always constantly confused about, there are some topics that I expect to be incendiary, some topics I expect us to not agree on. But I'm just like, every governor represents poor people. Every governor represents families. Every governor represents people who want their children to live happy, whole, and healthy lives. How do they get away? Like, who do they believe are their constituents? And I know the answer to my question is the rich and the wealthy and the people who are funding their campaigns. Yeah. But it's just so mind-blowing because I'm just like, how do these communities continue to vote these people in? Like, I do.
Yeah, the news isn't good today, and it sucks. It sucks. But we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to dive into our topic of the day. But you're watching On the Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network.
Yes, season 2 of True Talks is here, and we are turning up even higher.
Yo, it's your man Torre, the newest co-host on the set, and I'm bringing heart, heat, and hard truth every night.
And we are keeping it all the way fire. Ain't no filters, ain't no fluff, just straight facts. Y'all know how we do.
So stop scrolling and pull up to our YouTube at Truth Talks-Live. Like, subscribe, and smash that bell.
And after you do that, join us because we go live weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern on all the coasts. Wherever you are, from culture to controversy, we say what everyone else is scared to say.
We talk truth. Season 2 of Truth Talks. Let's go. Because this time, we ain't asking. We're taking the mic.
Welcome back to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network. So before the break, we talked briefly about the New York mayoral race. Against all odds, a 30-something progressive, 33 years old to be exact, progressive organizer who didn't take PAC money, who ran on housing justice, climate change, jobs, community investments, and won, right? He stood his ground and he still won despite the establishment coming out in droves with massive amounts of money. And not just barely, right? He won by a landslide. They beat a backing of the political machine and deep pockets. And the numbers are not just impressive, but it's something that the DNC should be taking notice of.
Oh yeah, they are definitely taking notice. It's hard to ignore because here's the twist. Older Black and Latino voters mostly stayed loyal to the incumbent Andrew Cuomo. Mm-hmm. It was younger working class and first gen voters who rallied behind the challenger, who was, Mamdani was committed to policies like free buses, higher minimum wages, NYPA accountability, so much more. The generational split couldn't have been clearer, and that's exactly what National Democrats need to understand. But what they also need to understand is historically, it is older generations who carry elections like these, retirees who come out in droves, middle-aged folks who are the largest voting bloc. for the first time in, I think, New York City election history, the largest group of voters was between the ages of 25 to 34. The second largest were even younger than them. And so it was just mind-blowing to see young people being so engaged and so excited after years of being really jaded and feeling like they're getting the same candidate after the same candidate after the same candidate. And finally, they are blessed with a candidate who is speaking their language, who's not afraid to use social media, but not in a gimmicky way, but to really convey policies that he believes are possible and can make the city better, who had the experience of doing so in Queens and was trying to bring it across all 5 boroughs. And it really resonated with these younger voters. And so it's hard for the DNC to ignore it.
Yeah, no, and the twist is, right, like, is that we're seeing a growing disconnect between the Democrat establishment and what they think that the Black and brown communities want versus what younger voters are demanding, are actually organizing around. Like, the old playbook cannot work anymore because it isn't working anymore. Younger voters are demanding or reimagining what's possible. As you know, one of our past episodes really alluded to, is like, we need to get back to the imagination of what is possible in this country and stop accepting the status quo. And I think what we're seeing younger voters say is, you know, why not? Why can't we have better jobs? Why can't we have better housing, affordable housing? Why can't we hold police officers accountable? Why can't we have free buses, right? These things are not so far-fetched, because if we can create pathways for billionaires to get access to more money and more dollars, or more contracts, why can't we do the same type of labor to ensure that there's a pathway for low-income workers, for people living in poverty, to be able to have upward mobility? And I think we're seeing that by the way in which voters have turned out. And they turned out early. They turned out early, large and in charge. And they did so despite people saying that he wasn't going to win.
Yeah. And, you know, it starts off as why can't we? And then it turns into we must. And that's the beauty of
we are.
Right. And we are. That's the beauty of seeing results show out in this way. Because I knew so many young people who were like, I'm excited about Mamdani, but I don't think he has a shot. I don't think they will let him get elected, right? Because that's what they're used to seeing, is that it feels as though the odds are stacked against them, that no matter what they want, the Democratic establishment is going to make a choice for them that they think is better. And so it's mind-blowing when you show up and say, I'm going to vote for him, but I don't really know how it's going to turn out. And then he wins by, I believe he won by over
100,000
votes.
I think it was,
yeah. And it was like 50, he had 56% of the votes to almost 44%. Like, it was just beautiful. It was magic. It was cosmic. And it's what gives people the boldness to say, wow, this thing that I want, other people want it too. And now we're done waiting. We're not going to be swayed by tired talking points about electability or being moderate or incremental change. Like, no, I want housing that I can afford, and I want it now. I want police that keep us safe and that don't kill, and I want it now. I want schools that teach the truth, and I want it now. And I want to live in a city that has so much wealth and makes it work for the average New Yorker, and not just the ones who live, near Central Park. And that is what is so powerful, and has the potential, if Democrats can follow the lead of that energy, has the power to reignite a base that did not show up the way that we needed them to in the 2024 election, because they were not given something to be excited about. When you see a base getting excited again, you don't trample on that excitement. You run towards it.
Yeah, because what I think we're seeing is that young people are saying, either give us what we want, or we're going to burn it down, which I'm kind of here for. I mean, to your point, like, let's talk the numbers, right? We saw the youth voter turnout increase by nearly 20% since the last mayoral election. The last mayoral election that elected a party promoter, but that's neither here nor there. I used to live in New York. We both did. And I was cheering for the New York mayoral election. Like, I still live there. Like, it was the biggest thing that could have happened, because we knew that should he win, it would shift the tide. It would send a message reverberating through the United States that there needed to be a wake-up call, right? We've seen the Democratic Party almost be dormant for the last few months. And we've seen voters almost like accepting the norm, like accepting that what we're seeing from Washington is the only thing to be expected. But the fact that you had in some boroughs, voter turnout increased by nearly 60%, right? That is massive. And so the wake-up call has definitely been sound. We still see the Democratic establishment kind of holding off their endorsement, which is very rare considering what normally happens after a primary election in New York. And considering that it's just a little frustrating, but not surprised. But I think what we're seeing is that young people are not going to be easily swayed by the talking heads of the Democratic Party without it being backed up by policies and practices that are actually going to benefit our community and move people out of poverty.
Yeah, I think the Democratic Party is realizing that when you are a representative, you represent the opinions and desires and motivations of your community, not the other way around. And if your community is telling you overwhelmingly that they want Mamdani and the progressive policies that he has put forward, you have to lead with that. And unfortunately, we see, a lot of Democratic establishment really doubling down on fear that this is, that Mamdani is going to be bad for New York, that they want more cops and budget cuts and vague promises of safety. And that centrist playbook is not going to work. And we've seen it time and time again, and it does not work. And so I've been really frustrated, but not surprised to see people like a Richie Torres and a Kirsten Gillibrand, saying really, right. Right. Like, no, you should be excited about what Mamdani is bringing to the party and how we might be able to.
But they're not excited because it threatens everything they stand for. And that's what a conversation we really need to have is that established Democrats are not excited because what he represents is the fact that the lies we've been told by Democrats for so long, that this can happen, that progress takes time, that we don't have the money, that we all need to make sacrifices, is false, that we can actually have the things we demand because we see it happening on the other side. They're literally patting the pockets of billionaires while saying that kids can't have lunches. So don't tell me that progress takes time when destruction can happen overnight.
Facts. And don't tell me that when rent is 60% of my income and my student loans have just been restarted and the Democratic Party has been telling me that they are the anti-Trump and I'm not seeing any resistance to Trump. Like Chuck Schumer really was like, we made them change the name of the bill.
Oh, it's so embarrassing.
Get the bill off the floor. Like, I don't care what it's called. Like, y'all are so excited about stuff that does not matter while we are struggling, and it shows how out of touch they are. And so I just think it's this win has just been it's been like injecting hope back into us, and I'm just excited to see it be cemented come November, but also to see who does and does not follow the lead come midterms,
Yeah. And let's be honest, according to Pew, nearly 70% of Black voters under 35 now identify as progressive or left-leaning independents, not loyal Democrats. That is something to take note of. They're not loyal to Democrats. They're loyal to their progressive and left-leaning values. And until we incorporate that into the national conversation and put those issues and policies and practices on a pathway to be elected, it's not going to be helpful. We're not going to see the type of turnout that we saw in New York because people are hungry for that. I mean, after the election, you literally saw people from all over the world saying that this is my future mayor. Like, we just won the election. You had people from all over
like, yes.
Yeah. And you had people from all over the country too. Like, giving small donations, $10, $5 here to ensure, because they knew that this represented more than just a mayor for the city of New York, even though he is the mayor of the city of New York and not for any foreign country. Which is BS. But this represented a turning point, and I'm excited to see the Democratic establishment, shaking their boots as someone who used to work in politics. I'm a recovering organizer.
Yes, girl. And I think for a lot of us, to your point, having worked in electoral politics and felt really jaded, you leave these sorts of rooms feeling like, I don't want to be a career electoral worker because what am I encouraging people to show up and vote for, right? But this was so beautiful because people were able to canvass hard for someone who ran on a vision that they resonated with, who ran with community, who held town halls and barbershops and bodegas, who talked policy like it mattered and in a way that was accessible, because it does. And I'm so excited because our guest that we're going to be bringing up after this short break is someone who walks that walk and talks that talk as well, and who is continuing to do that work even out of office through a new exciting venture. So yeah,
I'm excited. So we're going to take a quick break. You're watching On the Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Welcome back to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network. Joining us now is the inimitable, incomparable Jamaal Bowman. This New York native, longtime educator, beloved representative, and deeply principled organizer knows what it is to shake up the establishment and stand on business when it comes to bringing the grassroots organizing together with electoral politics. Mm-hmm. Since leaving Congress, which in response to some really racist funded tax bullshit. Jamaal has been in the streets, which shows that he is really walking the walk and talking the talk. He's really about it. He's been amplifying and supporting progressive candidates, including Mr. Mamdani, our new mayor to be, and he's been able to mobilize otherwise jaded and disillusioned voters in ways that needs to happen. So we're just so grateful to have him on the show. Welcome to the show, Jamaal Bowman.
Yeah, and I have to say, I said it off camera, but I think it's important to say here, it is inspiring to see so many Black men who are standing on principle, who are really leading the charge, who are not allowing the establishment or allowing their job, right, to dictate how they show up in representation of their community. And I think you have led with integrity that has been extremely impressive, because it reminds us that we all have something to lose, but if we don't make those sacrifices now, it's going to be too late. So thank you for joining us on this show. We're super excited to have you. I have to say, when Brea said that she could get you, I was like, yes, please, let's get him immediately.
I'm a try, like we've been I'm so glad.
Good timing, the universe, I want to jump right in and ask you, as someone who has campaigned yourself, who is a deep New York native, who understands the complexities of what New York has to offer, like no borough is the same. I used to live in Harlem. I lived in Brooklyn, now on the West Coast, but it's a very different, you can get so much flavor in different parts of the city. What do you think made this campaign so different? What do you think made it so effective in energizing a wide range of voters, but also particularly young people who have been disillusioned by the state of politics right now?
Yeah, I think you just said it. You used the word flavor. I think flavor captures exactly what New York City is all about. It's about diversity. It's about culture. It's about the beauty of the amazing people that live here. It's a working class city. It's a labor driven city. And it's a progressive city, regardless of what people try to tell us, as it relates to Wall Street or Cuomo or anything else. And so Zohran is bringing the flavor himself, just based on his background and his experiences and who he is and what he represents. But then he has an incredible base of progressives that he's been working with on the front lines, whether it's, hunger strikes with taxi drivers or hunger strikes as it relates to Gaza, or, working on campaigns that he didn't win, but he's building his, he's becoming battle tested in working on those campaigns. And so in addition to his work in the assembly, where he had the free and fast bus pilot. And so He brings the flavor. He's battle tested. The movement here in New York is battle tested. Remember, a couple of years ago, there was something called the No IDC movement
Yep.
that allowed progressives to be elected into the state Senate and the Assembly against Cuomo's pushed IDC that used to always caucus with Republicans and was one of the main reasons why we couldn't have nice things. So they won big races there. They won big races in New York City. AOC wins in 2018. I win in 2020 before they take 200,000 Black people out of my district, which is another conversation. But like, this is this city, right? And so the flavor of, I mean, can you imagine national Democrats like identifying themselves as having flavor or riz or swag? Like, absolutely not, right? So hopefully the city does what it can in November to help resurrect this dying party and honestly just resurrect our democracy.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, we need the inspiration to drive the type of change that we want. And I think for folks, they're seeing that in this election. The question is like, can we get people to unlearn what they've been told for so long and to look beyond the headlines, to actually understand and learn a new candidate who's fighting for them and fighting for them unapologetically, right? Right.
And what I love that you just brought up the timeline of when you were getting elected in AOC and even in other parts of the country, Cori Bush and whatnot. I think it really showed that this narrative that young voters are apathetic is a lie. The reality is that young voters are really energized when they have something to show up for. And then unfortunately, the establishment organizes massive resources to just kind of squash that excitement. But can you talk more about just how this race, especially Mamdani's primary win, proved that the opposite is true, is that young voters will turn out when given a chance to? Like, what flipped that switch?
Yeah, when you got a candidate talking real shit, right? Like when you got someone who's talking about the issues that young people care about, right? So running on affordability from the very beginning, talking about freezing the rent, again, fast and free busing, universal childcare, lowering grocery prices, fully funding our public schools, but not just talking about it, having a record of fighting for those things, but also with the authenticity and genuineness that young people can connect to, especially again, because he's a progressive, they're progressive. So it's like kindred spirits there. And so when you're talking about real issues and you're not hedging and you're leaning into it, young people are going to be inspired by that. You mentioned folks paying 60% of their salary towards rent, childcare costs, utility costs, transportation costs, all of the above. Like, people are barely surviving. They're literally working to just survive. And people want to start families. People want to save a couple of dollars. They want to take a vacation. They want to invest and not go into debt. And so Zohran captures all that. And that's why we saw a dramatic increase in first-time primary voters, because they're like, okay, I can get with this guy. I can engage this guy. And lastly, his group, DSA and others, they are real organizers. Like they do the real hard work, you know, whether it's phone banking, knocking on doors, going into random neighborhoods. This is who they are, and this is what they're about. And so, you know, it was that overall infrastructure. And then on the other side, like away from the campaign, this Don't Rank Cuomo campaign by this IE called Dream was very powerful. When I was in the streets talking to people and telling them to rank Zohran number one, they would tell me, and don't rank Cuomo. So they were already there. So both work simultaneously, and it worked to perfection.
Yeah, no, that's so true. You almost needed them simultaneously happening at the right time to show that not only is this candidate amazing, but this one could do real damage to our communities. Not to mention he's under federal investigation, but you know, that's a conversation for another day. I want to talk about this generational split, right? Like, do the older Black folks not want us to have anything nice, or what? Why is it the stark, you know, disconnect between the elders, you have the baby boomers and the Gen Xers, not all, but a lot, who, you know, did not come out in support of Zohran as they could have compared to millennials and Gen Zs?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I think one, Mario Cuomo was a good
Mm.
governor for
Yes.
my mom and people of her age, God rest her soul. So Mario Cuomo is a connection to the name there.
Mm.
And then Andrew Cuomo, there's a connection to the name there. And then you have this, someone referred to it, and I like the way this sounds, this trauma connection to Andrew Cuomo because of what happened during COVID.
Yeah.
Now, the three of us know what he did in the nursing homes. But our parents and grandparents, all they saw was a steady governor giving press conferences every day that was kind of calming the tide as Trump was turning the country upside down in Washington. So that trauma connection is like a real thing. And then from Mario to Andrew to the Black church as the sort of political establishment of older Black voters, that's a real connection. That's a big deal. I know for a fact Zohran was trying to get into every church he possibly
Yeah.
could, and they just wouldn't return calls, and they just wouldn't return emails. And
Yeah.
then finally, there are specific special interests who have invested time and money in the Black civil rights struggle in a way that keeps them in line with establishment politics, if you know what I'm saying. And so now you have this socialist, communist, Muslim, pro-Palestinian dude coming out of nowhere who hates Israel, who's anti-Semitic, blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
And so the establishment Democrats, establishment Black people, the Black church, and the funding that goes into that are now aligned with, the person they know, which is Andrew Cuomo. And so, no, I hope that our parents and grandparents want us to have nice things. I would hope that's the case. And then the other thing is, when you start saying, especially the older Black people, we're gonna give you this for free and this for free and free and everything free, they don't believe it, right? The irony is they don't believe it because people like Cuomo have been saying they're gonna do all kinds of stuff and have not done it. So
Right.
Zohran is the new person who's actually worked for it, forefront, and actually will do it. Whereas the establishment that we support so much is almost like conservative rural people voting against their own interests. This is kind of like what happened here in this particular race. Even though I really believe, and I'm one of the people trying to help here. The more they get to know Zohran, I think the more they will connect with him and then support the
Yes.
young brother.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I come from a legacy of Black pastors and preachers. My parents pastor in Queens. My grandparents pastored in Long Island. And I completely relate. I do think there's a lot of, we go with what feels familiar. The devil, sort of, so to speak, and being wary of taking a risk, especially because they're like, okay, well, if I bet on the new guy and the new guy doesn't win, now I'm on the outs of the administration that has a lot of power. So sometimes it's a fear tactic. It's like I don't know if he has the name recognition to win, and I can't afford to have my church congregation being shut out from what the Cuomo
Not have access, the access.
Exactly. So sometimes it's definitely that. It's just a fear of like, I just can't get on the new horse. I gotta just see where this goes. And I think there will be a lot of people who are a lot more receptive and want to hear more, leading up to the general election and on the other side of it. But to your point, what would you say to national Democrats who are still hesitant to fully embrace a progressive platform like this, especially in Black and brown communities, who say that it doesn't poll well, and all of the other things that their consultants have buzzing in their ears?
Which is funny. Can I add?
Yeah.
The vast majority of internal polling for Kamala Harris was that if she doubled down on progressive values, she actually would have won. So the data actually proves that when you do it, you win. You can win.
My reaction and my statement to them in response is, can y'all stop playing, yo?
Mm-hmm.
Can y'all stop playing and pretending that this solution, this action, this common sense isn't right in front of your face, right? Like, if we're going to save this darn thing we call a democracy, we need people to be excited to participate in it. And if they are not excited, they won't participate. If they don't participate, we will have a damn devil in the White House
Yeah.
trying to take healthcare from millions of people, not even trying, taking healthcare from millions of people, stealing our data, kidnapping people off the street, sending them to El Salvador, threatening tyranny, on and on and on and on, which is what we currently have. So the party better figure out a way, and Zohran provided the blueprint, him and his team provide the blueprint to galvanize young people with real stuff, though, like real tangible stuff. One of my biggest like frustrations, and something that used to make me sick to my stomach, was being in Congress, being in a place with so much power and not using that power to help the people who are most vulnerable. Because we know with every fiber in our being, when we help the most vulnerable people, it makes the country better. It makes our economy better. It makes our democracy better. Like, it has to be a ground up approach, because trickle down economics doesn't work. It kills people. And so please pay attention. And I said this before, endorse Zohran right now. Like, he's not an anti-Semitic. He is fighting for all people. He's a breath of fresh air in our politics. We need to come out very strongly and endorse him and get behind him and what he represents, because I think it'll galvanize the entire country and all parts of the country. And the last thing is, we know young people stay home consistently, and disengaged people stay home consistently because they're not excited about what's happening. So we need leadership to help us get on board.
That part. Yes, yes, yes. Could not agree more. Oh, Jamira, you're on mute.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I just wish they would even listen to their own data at this point. We're not asking you to make up anything new. We're asking you to just follow what your voters, the people that you're claiming that you represent, supports. So tell our listeners, how do we win? What can we do despite what feels like impossible right now, and making a lot of people fearful about what's to come, especially under a Trump administration or a Trump regime, as many of us know what is happening to be true?
Yes. So go to Zohran for New York. I believe that's the website. Make a donation if you can, whether it's $5, $10, whatever amount is very, very helpful. Find independent expenditures that are supporting Zohran and donate there as well. $5, $10, whatever you can donate. Sign up for a phone bank. Help us make calls. Help him make calls. If you're close to New York, come in, knock on some doors, be a part of this so we could push him over the finish line in November. In addition to that, do everything in your power to resist what is happening in Washington, because what they're doing right now, like trying to cut Medicaid for like millions of people, is disastrous. And what they're trying to do, just so everyone knows, and I'm sure your listeners know, they want to privatize health insurance.
Yep.
And they want to privatize all of the resources in the public sector. And so them cutting all of this, well, then what will rise in response is the private sector taking over housing, taking over health insurance, taking over public education. This is what they want to do. And so we have to resist that. So calling members of Congress, whether they're your member or not, particularly Republicans as it relates to this bill, telling them to vote no on this bill today is essential. And staying engaged with your member of Congress overall, just to make sure they're fighting back as hard as they can against Trump. And then finally, in your local community, wherever you are, there's something going on that you need to be a part of, or you need to start something. So whether it's your school board or city council or town council or village trustee or county rep or state rep, the enemy, like the people who want democracy to fold, and the Bill Ackman crew of the world, and Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, and they are constantly fighting to destroy what we hold dear. And that's happening in your local community too. So plug in your local community, see where you could lean in and just be a help, because we need to win for humanity, not just democracy, for humanity. We all got to be in the fight, and every little bit really helps.
Yes. Every bit helps, and we all have a role to play. Thank you so much for those words of encouragement, and we really appreciate you coming on today. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. But stay tuned if you're listening and watching. You're watching On the Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network, and we'll be right back.
What's up, y'all? Look, Fanbase is more than a platform. It's a movement to empower creators, offering a unique opportunity for everyday people to invest in Black-owned tech, infrastructure, and help shape the future of social media. Investing in technology is essential for creating long-term wealth and influence in the digital age. The Black community must not only consume tech, we must own it.
Discover how equity crowdfunding can serve as a powerful tool for funding Black businesses, allowing entrepreneurs to raise capital directly through their community through the Jobs Act.
Welcome back to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network. This race was the blueprint, not just for winning elections, but for building power, cultivating trust, and putting people first.
And it's not enough to tell us to vote blue no matter who, which if you haven't watched that episode, you need to go back and find it. But we have to show up with policies that protect our lives, show up with jobs, housing, education, and truth. That is what we need from the Democratic Party. The future is not moderate. It is visionary. It is imaginative. And that's what we are running towards. So as Jamaal Bowman said, please support the Zohran Mamdani campaign in whatever way you can, donating, volunteering, talking to your friends who are based in New York, because we are not just doing this as those who are constituents in New York. We are sending a message nationwide that this is the energy we want to see more of. So follow people like Jamaal Bowman and Cori Bush, as well as groups like Justice Democrats, Sunrise Movement, and any others that are locally or nationally pushing for more innovative approaches to political organizing.
Absolutely. And you're watching On the Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network. And remember, local elections can create national waves. And it's time that we have a national wave.
Until next time, keep pushing, y'all.